everlasting godly circle of past, present and future, of passing, being and becoming, to ancestors, the living and the descendants. In charge of the day-to-day administration of the Ahnenerbe, Himmler appointed Wolfram Sievers. Sievers had joined the Nazi Party in 1929. Now, at the age of 30, he headed a project which involved some of the most eminent men in German academic life. Walter Wust was one of Germany's leading experts on India. Ernst Schaefer, a veteran explorer. Herbert Jankuhn was typical of the caliber of the academics joining the Ahnenerbe. His curriculum vitae shows him to have been among the top flight of German archaeologists. Of the 46 department heads, 19 were professors, and a further 19 held doctorates. These scholars were now to be inducted into the SS.
In dem Moment, in dem dieses SS-Ahnenerbe, diese Forschungs- und Lehrgemeinschaft, wie sie sich nannte, SS-Ahnenerbe gegründet wurde, in dem Moment, in dem wirklich hochprofessionelle Archäologen diese Vorgeschichtsabteilung im SS-Ahnenerbe organisiert haben, nahm diese Richtung einen hochwissenschaftlichen Lauf.
The Ahnenerbe's scope was global. Expeditions were planned to destinations defined as important centers of northern Aryan culture spread around the world. A scientific expedition to Iceland was accompanied by the Grail hunter Otto Rahn. It was hoped that an expedition to Peru in 1939 would find evidence of the tertiary people, the race which, according to their theories, populated the world during the period of the third moon. In the Canary Islands, explorers sought proofs for the existence of Atlantis. In Iran, the famous inscriptions at Behistun were examined for evidence of the earliest Aryan kings of pure Aryan blood. For many years to come, the Ahnenerbe announced, many extensive expeditions are planned to faraway places.
Weitere frühzeitliche Dokumente finden wir am Valencia-See in Venezuela. Auffallend ist die ungewöhnlich langgestreckte Form der gefundenen toten Schädel. In Venezuela ist man überzeugt, durch diese Funde das gerissene Band mit dem versunkenen Atlantis wieder aufgefunden zu haben.
In 1938, the SS mounted their most ambitious expedition to Tibet. The prime object, they said, was to give answers to many questions in the ethnic, racial and biological fields. It was led by Ernst Schaefer, who had led 2 previous expeditions to Tibet. Among the members of his team was the young anthropologist Bruno Beger. The expedition left Germany in April 1938. With the permission of the British, they travelled through India into Tibet in an attempt to discover the origins of the Aryan people.
Größe der Füße, Länge von Arm und Hand, Farbe der Augen und der Haut. Alles wird notiert.
Bruno Beger was in a long line of anthropologists who believed that the proportions of the human body were vital indicators of race, that it was possible to discover the moral and intellectual capacities of a person through the shape of the skull.
So war bald das Vertrauen zu uns, dass sich die Eingeborenen sogar herbeiließen, ihre Gesichter abformen zu lassen. Eine weiche, harzähnliche Masse, die beim Atmen nicht sonderlich stört, wird aufgetragen und so entsteht eine naturgetreue Maske. In den Augenblicken hilfloser Finsternis aber legt sich die alte Dämonenfurcht wie ein Albdruck auf das naive Gemüt des Eingeborenen. Bald ist die Masse erstarrt. Es ist ein Augenblick für alle Beteiligten, als endlich die Maske abgenommen wird. So entstand Stück um Stück unsere rassenkundlichen Sammlung von den Menschentypen Hochasien.
We must set race at the center of life, said Hitler in Mein Kampf. Everything we admire on this earth today is only the creative product of a few peoples, and originally perhaps of one race. The roar of propaganda was relentless at every level of society. On the 10th of March 1937, here in the Hacker Keller in Munich, SS officers waited to hear one of Germany's leading experts on India, Professor Walter Wust, give a lecture on Hitler's Mein Kampf. His subject was Mein Kampf as the mirror of the Aryan worldview.
There is no more striking example, he told them, of the long-term working out of this tradition than the similarity between the words of the Führer and those of that other great Aryan personality, the Buddha. And this, remember, is one of Germany's top Indologists, addressing the elite of the Nazi terror machine. He concluded by saying this, that there is only one explanation for this correspondence, and it is the essential explanation of the Nazis' whole world view. And that is the basic idea of racial identity, an idea which has been preserved and handed down over thousands of years by the sacred concept, as he put it, of Ahnenerbe, ancestral heritage, a heritage of which the SS had now become the embodiment and the guardians.
By 1939, the SS had grown in number to 300,000. They were the Führer's Praetorian Guard. They ran the secret police and the concentration camps. Shall we form a brotherhood of knights around the Holy Grail of pure blood? Hitler had asked. Himmler had done it for him. Here were Teutonic knights. Here were knights of the Round Table. "50 years later, an Englishman, Stuart Russell, married to a local girl and settled in Wewelsburg, heads towards the center of the Nazi universe. Stuart has become a local historian, an expert on the world Himmler built in the castle. A shadowy world, now pieced together from local stories and the reminiscences of old Nazis.
Well, we are now down in the crypt below the north tower of the Wewelsburg, in what the locals even today refer to as the Valhalla.
The documentary record is slim. Today, the meaning of Himmler's Wewelsburg can only be understood by entering the same symbolic world as the Reichsführer SS himself.
I'm now walking down a flight of 3 steps. 3 steps, by the way, referring to the Third Reich. Exactly this point was to mark what Himmler believed would be the center of the new world, just to give an idea of the dimension of the thing he was planning. If we look around the crypt, we see 12 stone plinths. We don't know, as with many other things concerning this room, what was actually to stand on these plinths or be in the niches behind the plinths. However, the figure 12, the number 12, is interesting for several reasons, or possibilities. We have the story of the 12 Knights of the Round Table. The legend of King Arthur is certainly something that interested Heinrich Himmler.
Long before the war, the German public had come to know how to read the meanings of these myths and legends.
The Bible, etc. We have 12 months in the year. There are so many possibilities.
Nach Osten schallt der Ruf durchs Land. Deutschritter, nehmt das Schwert zur Hand. Vermehrt das Land, vermehrt den Wald, schafft Raum der Heimat, Raum den Erben.
As always in history, it's not what the experts say which matters, the scientists, the technologists, the theologians. It's how they put their ideals into practice in real life which counts. Here at Wewelsburg in the 1930s, a fantasy of German history was made concrete. The myth of medieval knighthood, of round tables and Teutonic knights. The myth of the male military order, austere and disciplined with its secret rituals. Merciless and moral, as Himmler said. But in all such myths of knighthood, there has to be a quest for knowledge, for power, and for conquest. The medieval Teutonic knights, in the end, failed in their battles against the Slavs. But their modern successors, the SS, armed with an ideology which was based on pure historical fantasy, would now embark upon the conquest of the East.